Allendale. We have land in Dickey County.
Mr. Tiegs, were you in the room this morning when I went through the penalties for perjury?
Yes, I was.
And do you understand what perjury is?
Yes, I do.
And being advised of the potential penalties for perjury, do you promise to tell the truth in this case today?
Yes, I do.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Jordy.
Yes, sir. Can you just orientate the commission in terms of where your land is located that's potentially an issue here?
There's 3 different parcels. We have some land southwest of Allendale, about 3 miles, some southeast, and then we have some east of Allendale, about 8 miles. 2 of the parcels have been in our family for over 40 years. One section that goes through, there's game and fish land in the middle of it. But of course, we do not go through the game and fish. We'll go around the good ag land with the pipeline. The issue, my big concern is the depth. Some of this land it's hilly in certain areas. We have water runoff, washout issues. Then we have issues where there's a lot of low ground. And it was stated earlier, we talked about frost heaves. You put something, wet soil, pipeline, culvert, whatever, it's gonna lift. My concern is only a 4-foot depth in there. This land, some of this land, I was gonna tile. Now after today, I mean, it sounds like you can do that. It's gonna be more expensive with headers and planning, but I mean, it sounds like it can be done, but it sounds, a lot more intense, more money. The 3rd parcel is rented land. I've probably farmed for at least 15 years. I guess, quite frankly, this is our livelihood as a farmer. To some it, I feel it's just another piece of ground we got to get through to get this project done so we can start collecting our money from our carbon credits. And, I guess there's a lot of things that are concerning.
So let's just kind of unpack that a little bit. Are you saying that you either own or have an economic interest via leasehold in 3 separate parcels?
That's correct.
Right, and you own 2 of them in fee simple and you rent 1 of them? Is that yes?
Yes, well, the one half section is in a trust, but the other one is owned, but I operate the land. I operate all the land. I rent it. I farmed it since I was a kid. So the 2 parcels that we own, and like I said, the others I've farmed for the last 15 years.
And are you a lifelong North Dakota farmer then?
That's correct.
And in your personal experience with the inclement weather North Dakota can obviously have, and the freeze and the thaw, do you have any personal experience in terms of the depth of the freeze, the frost line?
Well, we've had septic systems. I mean, I shouldn't deviate, but I've seen frost when we dig up to 5 to 6 feet deep. If you get 20 below weather with no cover, anybody who's lived here any amount of time, you talk to anybody that does any excavating, and they'll tell you how deep it gets. It gets below 4 feet.
And is that a concern when Summit says that, they'll go 4 foot deep when you've seen frost at the 6 foot level?
Yes. I guess, and I'm concerned too about the washouts. The one piece has a creek on one side and the drainage ditch going through it, and there's times when we get a lot of heavy torrential rain, and there's a lot of surface water washouts that you can't control Mother Nature. When it comes, it comes.
And has Summit made any attempts to you or any promises to you in writing or otherwise that they would bury the pipe at a cover level of 6 foot?
They said at one point they would do, the land agents said they would do what was necessary. And I guess from the beginning, we really didn't want it. We hoped it would go away or there'd be a reroute. And he kept pestering. And finally, we hired legal counsel from Sioux Falls. Just because if we're forced to do this, we want the easements to be fair and right. So we hired legal counsel. So, and I speak with my lawyer at least twice a month, and I guess from the first offer to the offer we had now, they've tripled the offer. But I really have not had any direct contact with Summit. I really just decided to let the lawyers handle it.
And whether the offer's been tripled or quadrupled or a million times, that's all relative based on the starting point, correct? Is that yes?
Yes.
And regardless of what the offer is, have you made the determination that based upon all of the concerns, all of the unknowns, the economic damage potentially to you through loss of yield, compaction, soil mixing, other things, that regardless of what the offer is, it's not sufficient?
No, this is something, 99 years is, like you said earlier, might as well be forever. My son wants to farm, his grandkids we'll all have to deal with this. And I hope there's never a breach. We always try to do the best we can, but if there is, I sure don't want to be out there. And I saw some of the meeting in Bismarck, the first meeting, and there's sure a lot of outrage when the pipeline goes through a heavily populated area, but it seems like in rural North Dakota, not so much. Nobody's really too upset about it, and that kind of bothers me a little bit, I guess.
Well, do you think your land and your home and your concerns are any less important than folks who live near the city of Bismarck?
No, I don't. We were talking about staying 8 miles away from Bismarck. Well, this pipeline's only going to be probably 2 miles from Ellendale, south of Ellendale, right north of the golf course. Probably a quarter mile from the golf course. So, yeah, just because it's a small scale. I don't know. It's just seems like a lot of risk for not a lot of reward is my feeling on it.
Were you here today when Mr. Powell testified?
Yes.
And did you track his explanation of the benefits being the taxes, and then he couldn't answer questions about the taxes, and then it ended up being benefit for the one ethanol plant?
Yes, and I guess I want to add to that is that one flyer from Summit, I think I have my folder, but they talk about keeping the value of our land up and our commodity prices. Well, quite frankly, the land that this pipeline's going on, the value is going to go down. How can it not go down? And if it's going to go down, I will petition my county to lower the taxes on it. Why should I pay extra taxes if it's going to go down?
And so, would you agree that what sets a market price is a willing buyer and a willing seller?
Correct.
And as a farmer, lifelong North Dakota farmer, would you even be willing to purchase land as a new purchase if it had this pipeline through it?
I'd have an awful tough time with it.
And would you criticize a potential future buyer if you ever had to sell, or your son in the future, if they offered you a discount because the pipeline was there?
Run that by me.
Yeah. Would you understand if someone offered you a discounted price due to the pipeline's existence?
Absolutely.
And in terms of, again, Mr. Powell claims that taxes are a benefit and then couldn't answer questions about it. But in that regard,
no, sorry, I'm going to object to the form of that question. Those sorts of side remarks are just not necessary for a direct examination.
I agree. Can you rephrase the question, please?
Sure. From Mr. Powell's testimony, did you get a clear answer of what the alleged tax benefits were?
No, I really didn't. I just know that our property tax, I'm going to have to still pay the same amount of property tax on this land, regardless. So I don't quite understand how that works either.
And your statement earlier that if you believe this devalues your ground and you still have to pay 100% of the real property taxes, that you would be petitioning your county or your assessor for a reduction in property tax.
Definitely.
All right. And if you did that and others did that and were successful, that would lead to actually a negative property tax revenue.
That's correct.
All right. Do you have any tile lines on any of your fields?
I do not. We've been looking into it. We just haven't proceeded yet with it. I know we have some potential to do some.
was after you've heard everything today and learned probably more about tile than a lot of us ever knew before, have you had second thoughts about tiling your field if the pipeline goes through?
I do, yes.
And if you didn't have the opportunity to tile or didn't make that decision, is it fair to say that your yields would be reduced and the fertility or productivity of your ground would be reduced?
Yes, because we have we have salt issues. That's the biggest problem with a high water table.
All right. And although I asked Mr. Powell, do you believe you got a clear answer that if the pipeline went through your property and then later you wanted to add tiling in the future, did you get a clear answer of whether or not they would commit to pay for the increase due to the inconvenience of their pipeline?
I guess no. I guess let's put it this way: if we're going to go on that avenue, I want it drawn out black and white in the easement. That'd be the only way I would depend on that happening.
So rather than listening to claims and pamphlets and brochures and what they intend to do, you would want it in black and white and signed by them.
That's why I hired a representative.
All right. And just to be clear, the representative from Sioux Falls, that's other council, that's not me, correct?
Right.
All right. Very good. Sir, can you think of, as you sit here today, any other particular concerns related to your land, your economic future vis-a-vis this pipeline?
The doctor from NDSU talked about putting the soil back in order, and I definitely agree with that. More for us is just, obviously the topsoil and the clay, but he brings up a valid point with the salt. That's another important issue. Well, one other thing with even a 4-foot pipeline, 4-foot depth is concerning. Like with these big self-propelled sprayers that we use nowadays, they're tremendously heavy. They have narrow tires on them, and when you cross this pipeline with soft dirt, I guarantee you that sprayer will sink in at least 4 feet or more.
And on that point, sir, I have an exhibit that, I don't know, would it be JT1, Your Honor, James Tiegs 1? Or,
Yes.
okay. I'm just going to mark this JT1. I'll just pass this around. Thank you. Sir, in front of you, I have placed what's been marked JT1 to pick up on your last comments, and can you identify what we see there as a sprayer?
It's a large self-propelled sprayer that is sunk in above the axle, the rear axle.
And again, we didn't have a tape measure, but if we can ask for the indulgence of the fact that those tires are 6 feet wide, is this demonstrative?
At least I'm only 5'10" or 5'11". When I stand next to the sprayer, the tires are taller than I am.
All right, and this would be a demonstrative of the concern of the type of equipment, the weight of the equipment, and then the soil conditions in North Dakota, where if the pipeline was 4 feet, we could potentially have a problem.
Right, and the other thing, some people would just tie onto that and pull it out, but sometimes if they go down bad enough, you need to come in with an excavator or a track hoe and dig the mud away from them so you can get it pulled out without tearing the piece of equipment in two.
All right. I would offer JT1.
Any objection to JT1, Mr. Milberg?
For the limited purpose of demonstrating a piece of equipment that is bottomed out after sinking, no. I have questions about foundation otherwise.
That's my understanding of why it's being offered.
Correct. That's it.
Mr. Pelham, any objection?
For demonstrative purposes only, no objection.
All right. It is admitted for those purposes only.
Sir, again, anything else? I know there's a lot, but anything else you'd like the commission to know?
I guess the other thing I'm going to bring up, we had petitioned for a meeting in Dickey County. I appreciate you guys received that letter. And 3 of the 5 of us we're in a landowner group east of us, and Summit found out about this, and they contacted them and told them, you have a day to decide. You withdraw your testimonies, we double your offer. That's why we know it did not have a hearing in Dickey County. So when we talk about voluntary easements, there's nothing voluntary about this. When eminent domain is in the back of every landowner's mind, there's nothing voluntary. Because who wants to take eminent domain? I mean, really. And this is land that people work their whole lives to get. This property rights are being violated. For a pipeline that is for CO2, it's not for oil, it's not for rural water. You know, if it's for the good of the community, I think it's great. But I really struggle with this. We can talk about the greening, the carbon offsets. We can talk about all that great stuff. But there's a ton of money behind that. That's all I'm going to say. Leave it at that. Thank you for your time. I don't know if you have anything more you want me to talk about, but
I don't think so, sir. Thank you.
thank you.
All right, Mr. Mulberg, any questions?
No questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Pelham, any questions?
Just if you know, sir, any idea where this JT1 is that you're from, how you got that?
That is for demonstration purposes.
Right, I know that, but where did you get it?
I could help him or refresh his memory.
It was in one of the Dickey County fields.
So this is in North Dakota,
Yes. Yeah.
somewhere in Dickey County.
Well, I've seen other sprayers. I mean, I've seen combines. I've had combines go down to where the header's flat on the ground, and then this was not anywhere near any, excavation. I mean, it happens. Unfortunately, when it gets wet.
Thank you. No further questions.
Mr. Shook?
I have a few questions just for kind of some education purposes, honestly. So I spent a lot of time with the 811 law in North Dakota. So if you get stuck to this degree, do you think you need to call somebody?
Well, in light of this, yeah. I mean, I don't know. If I bury my sprayer on top of one of their pipelines, I'll be calling them right away and say, hey, I got to get this thing out. What are we going to do?
Sure, even outside of there being a CO2 or any other pipeline on a piece of property. So if you get a piece of equipment stuck for whatever reason, do you think there's a point where you need to call 811?
If you think there's a line nearby, I certainly would. And in other instances, I've had machinery stuck, but I know the land well enough that where I was stuck, it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. But that's a very good point.
So, and I'm not accusing you of doing anything illegal or anything like that. I like to take these opportunities.
Right. That's a very good point.
But would you be surprised to learn that if you get stuck to the point where you're disturbing the earth greater than 18 inches down, would you be surprised to learn that you'd be in violation of the 811 law if you did not call?
I learned something today. I am.
That was my only point, is just a little bit of education, but thank you for
thank you for that.
Commissioner Chrisman?
James, would you go through slow enough that I can make notes?
Sure.
Of the legal descriptions of your 3 properties?
Okay.
Tell me which one is the owned, the trust, and the lease.
Let's see. I should have that here. Okay. The first one, the section that I own solely with my wife is section 17, township 129, range 61. That's the one east of Ellendale, about 8 miles. The land that's in the trust is section 27, 129 north, 63W. And the third one, I was just speaking with my the guy I rent the land from this morning, and I hadn't talked to him for a while, and I should have. I don't have the legal of that one. He said originally he'd heard a lot from Summit, but lately he hasn't heard a word. And I don't believe he even has legal counsel. But that was section, I wish I would have wrote that one down. That was section 30, and that was in Ellendale Township. I do not. Yeah, that was in no, that's Van Meter. Section 30 in Van Meter Township.
On your section 17, you have the whole section, or?
Yeah, we have the whole section with the exception of there's about 80 to 100 acres of game and fish property on one end, and then right through the middle of it. And up in the middle of it.
That comes in toward the north side of the section from the east.
Yeah.
Goes westerly, and then when it gets about 3/4 of the way through, it angles more south.
Yes, yep, that's the one.
Is that, this map would indicate it's a good part cropland, and maybe that western side, I can't tell if that's pasture or cropland.
No, the western side's cropland. It's just a lot higher. The topography, the elevation really changes a lot of that field. And that's one that we have a lot of issues with runoff. The neighbors feels a little bit higher even, and I've been fighting washouts on that ground for years. And then it goes down the hill, and then there's a lot of low ground issues.
So pretty much the whole mile that they're going through here is it's a crop.
That's correct, you bet.
And I didn't find the one
section 27.
Is it like similar? You have the whole section?
Yeah, it's a half section. It's going through the long way across, all the way across the half section.
North or south?
South. That's the south half of 27.
And is that cropland or pasture? That's
cropland. There's a little bit of grass on the east side with a creek, and then there's also a drainage ditch running through that field the long way. And as it approaches the east half, the erosion over the last few years has gotten a lot worse on that land also, with all the excess moisture we've been receiving.
Okay, no other questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Haugenhofer?
Well, Victor took my public service announcement about calling before you dig with this, and just to let you know, April is Safe Digging Month.
Mr. Dawson?
Your Honor, no questions. Thank you.
Mr. Jordy, any redirect?
Just one. So, sir, if this pipeline goes through, and thanks to the education, I learned something new myself on the 18 inches. Is it fair to say you'll just be calling 811 every day in the spring or in wet conditions?
I think it'd probably be a pretty good idea.
All right. Thank you. Nothing further.
Thank you.